When Donald Trump revealed the level of trade tariffs that countries around the world would face from the U.S., nations in South America breathed a sigh of relief. 10 of the 12 states on the continent received the lowest level of 10%. Only Guyana and Venezuela were initially hit with higher rates of 38% and 15% respectively, before these were subsequently reduced to 10%. This came as Trump decided to pause elevated rates on almost all countries for 90 days. The exceptions are China, which has been hit with 145%, and Canada and Mexico, which have still got 25% tariffs on some exports to the U.S. Commentators who describe this as a win for South America argue that the higher U.S. tariffs on China and on Canada and Mexico could make South American goods more attractive to U.S. and global buyers. While plausible, this view oversimplifies broader global trade instability that South America is also exposed to. Here I'll set out this debate, starting with the potential upsides for the region. South America is rich in commodities. Its biggest economies, Brazil and Argentina, are major exporters of soybeans and petroleum, as well as, in Brazil's case, iron ore used in steel production. The U.S.'s huge tariffs on Chinese goods, and China's retaliatory 125% on U.S. imports, may create opportunities for South American exporters. For example, Brazil could increase agricultural exports to China to replace previous U.S. supplies. China is already Brazil's largest export destination, followed by the U.S. There is a precedent. When Trump hit China with tariffs during his first term of office, China shifted some commodity purchases from the U.S. to Brazil, boosting Brazilian soybean exports. With the 2025 soybean harvest in Brazil now continuing, some are hoping for a repeat. These include Frederico da Vila, a farmer and ex-politician aligned with former Brazilian President Bolsonaro. Mr. da Vila was also previously a senior figure at AproSoja, a soybean producers group. He tells the BBC that President Trump's first term was, well, excellent for Brazilian agriculture, as Trump's tariffs in that time favored us. However, Juan Carlos Hallak, professor of international economics at the University of Buenos Aires, has a counterpoint. He says that raising bilateral barriers on commodities mostly just affects who sells to whom, and not financial gains for the sellers, as the prices are set globally. So his suggestion is that South American nations shouldn't expect more financial gains from their commodities as a result of Trump's actions, just potentially different customers. The prices are instead affected by macroeconomic factors. For example, if there is a recession, he tells the BBC. Yet other sectors in South America are also hoping that Trump's actions mean they could win more global sales as countries decide to buy less from the U.S. Take the Brazilian beef industry. The country's president, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, was recently in Japan, hoping to open the Japanese market to Brazil's beef exports. So, Japan currently buys about 40% of its beef from the United States, but after Trump initially threatened to hit the country with 24% tariffs, Tokyo may, shift to buy more meat from South America. Other Brazilian industries, such as coffee and footwear, may actually gain a competitive edge over their Asian counterparts in the United States market. Brazil is the world's biggest producer of coffee, followed by Vietnam, Indonesia, and Colombia. Trump initially hit Vietnam with tariffs of 46% and Indonesia with 32%. While those higher rates are now on pause, if they are reinstated in July, it will make beans from those two countries significantly more expensive in the U.S. This would give both Brazilian and Colombian coffee a competitive advantage in the U.S., where they are already the main suppliers. Meanwhile, Brazil's shoemakers could see more exports to the U.S. as a result of Trump's high tariffs on Chinese exports. Currently, China is the world's largest manufacturer of footwear, while Brazil is in 5th place. So, the other 3 nations in the top 5 list of the world's largest footwear producers are, India, Vietnam, and Indonesia. The United States initially gave India a higher tariff rate of, 26%. Uruguay's new president, Yamandu Orsi, has also said that Trump's tariffs are helping to push a trade deal between the European Union and South America's bloc, Mercosur, closer to reality. He said that, Europe has little choice now but to lower its demand somewhat in negotiations, as it seeks to diversify trading partners. You may have noted a lot of coulds and ifs. That's not just because it is early days. It's also because the pace and scale of US trade changes are causing wider instability. Whether the potential positives for South America outweigh the potential negatives is hard to calculate accurately, which brings me to the risks for the continent. Firstly, 10% is still 10%. Even countries with the lower tariff rate may face reduced US demand if prices rise. This is more of a risk for imports that compete with US domestic production, such as oil, soybeans, copper, iron ore, gold, and lithium.